Worship musicians, did you know that in 2020, 1 out of every 3 guitars sold was for church? We better talk about it. Welcome to Blueprint Sounds. My name is Nathan Smith. So glad you're joining me. Today we're going to talk about the worship industry a little bit. But before we do, I have a gift for you. Make sure to go to my website, blueprintsounds.com, and get access to my free workshop, 5 Elements of a Full Sounding Worship Team. It gives your team a framework and language for how to understand what the role of everybody in the band is. It really helps speed up rehearsals. It creates clarity where there was confusion and helps everybody to get out of each other's way. And also you get musical examples of how things are done wrong, which you might recognize, so that you can do things correctly. So go and look at that training. It's on blueprintsounds.com. And without any further ado, let's get into today's topic. So back in 2021, ultimateguitar.com, which is a famous guitar website for tablature, released an article where they said that Fender Musical Instruments said that 1 out of every 3 guitars they sold in 2020 was for church. That's a staggering stat. 30% of their market for guitars was for worship. That turns out to be a $600 million industry. It's just people buying guitars for worship teams. That's amazing. Now, the factors we're not really sure. My suspicion is that a lot of people have migrated to making beats and hip hop. It's become ascendant. And so the church is sort of one of those last bastions of places where people play live instruments on a weekly basis. So that makes a little bit of sense. And that's actually good news because I love real music that you can have the wood and the strings and sound is actually pumping out into the air rather than just being synthesized and on a computer. So that's good news, but there's another side to the story. And I want you to think about this. If you had a business and you knew that one of your demographics contained 30% of your sales, what would you do? Well, you would market to them as hard as you could. You would try and serve them. But here's what marketing is. Marketing is solving someone's problem and then telling them in the clearest language possible that you solved their problem. For example, if I had tooth pain and I needed a toothpaste, well, the makers of that toothpaste would try as hard as they could to find out who I was and get to me with their message that their toothpaste could help me. All right, so that's a good thing, yes. But let's say you're an electric guitarist that has an electric guitar, has pedals, has an amp, and you are happily playing on Sunday mornings. You are content, and therefore you are not buying anything. Well, that's a problem for Musician's Friend and Sam Ash and Sweetwater and Guitar Center and Fender and Gibson and everybody else in that music industry. They have a problem if you are happy and not buying anything. So they need to convince you that you have a problem. They need to make you unhappy in some way. And so that's what they do in their marketing. They tell you that, the next thing is this, or what you really need to do to be professional is this. Or they sponsor guitar players. Now, we would all love to be sponsored, but think about it this way. If they sponsor your favorite worship guitarist and they give him or her gear either for free or at cost, it's not out of the kindness of their heart. A $300 or a $500 piece of gear or a $1,000 piece of gear is pennies on the dollar. It's such a smart investment if they can get 100 people to see that YouTube channel or that Instagram of that famous guitar player and say, he or she has this or that. That must be what I need. Or let's say Sweetwater brings somebody on and has them talk about their rig rundown and what they're playing on tour. We all go gaga for that as far as, just we want to know what our heroes are playing because we want to sound like them. Well, Sweetwater's not doing it out of altruism. They're doing it because it makes excellent business sense. If I can get people to look at this person who they want to model their sound after, and if I can get them my gear in any way, well, yeah, for free, it's going to make sense for that guitar player. Does it make sense for you to pay $500 for that Strymon delay pedal? Probably not. But that's what they're banking on. They're hoping that by giving their gear and by getting it out there, by getting the word out that they've solved somebody's problem, they can solve your problem. They can make you a better guitarist. Well, guess what? Nothing is going to make you a better guitarist other than sitting in your room and shedding, doing the work that it takes to get better at your instrument. And guess what? That's really cheap. All it costs you is time and maybe some books, right? And so much is online for free, and there are so many great tutorials. And I get that because I'm part of that industry. I want to help you be a better guitarist as well. And so I make products for that specific purpose. But compared to buying a new guitar or a new amp, that's a cheap fix. But it's a long fix, right? It means that you have to make the investment as a guitarist to sit down and work on something, to really scour through your weaknesses and say, okay, I'm going to get better here. Well, it's relatively easy to just scroll through your phone and look at matchless amps or Strymon delays or whatever it is. I'm sure it'll be something next week. It takes very little brain power, it takes very little effort on your part, and you buy into that lie that says, oh, if I only had this XYZ, I would sound like him or her, right? Well, that's what marketing is for. They want you to think that because it has to go from being a want, wouldn't that be nice to have, to a need. Yes, I'm going to drop $300 to $500 on that new thing because I think that's going to be the game changer. Well, it's not the game changer. The game changer is what you do with these 10 guys. What you do with your fingers and your musicality is what makes you better. And a delay pedal or yet another overdrive pedal is not going to solve your problem. The other part of it is that sometimes we use it as a legitimacy crutch. If we show up on a Sunday morning and our pedal board isn't as big as the guy's last week pedal board, then we think, oh man, well, I'm not worthy. I don't have that sound. Here's the problem. When everybody goes out and buys the same pedal, they all have the same sound. So you don't sound like yourself. You know what differentiates you, really? Is your note choice and the way that you phrase things, how you work your guitar, your musicality, what's inside you when that comes out, that's what differentiates you. B.B. King sounded like B.B. King no matter what guitar he was on because of his note choice, the way that he would bend notes. You listen to it, you're like, whoa, now that is some blues. He had a sound, and it didn't matter that he had his favorite guitar on or if he had somebody else's guitar on. He sounded like B.B. King. You should strive to sound like you and spend the time getting to know your instrument to the point where that comes out. You just sounding like your pedals, it's second rate. So don't buy into the lie that the marketeers want you to believe that that is the answer, that a new pedal is the answer. Because guess what? You are a huge demographic and everybody wants to sell you something. Everybody wants to separate you from your cash by promising that you're going to be happier. It's not true. You know what'll make you happier? Improving. Hey, I hope that helps. I hope that encourages you. If you're looking for more free help, go to my website, blueprintsounds.com, and look up 5 elements of a full sounding worship team. All right, until next time, God bless and goodbye.